Yeah, and
Thank you.
I'm wondering, on the topic of your anxiety, I also have anxiety, but for women, I think, it's almost like my anxiety, like it's just more common to talk about
it's normal.
it, right? It's normal.
It's normalized, at least.
It's normalized. It's still, mental health is still difficult to talk about and still stigmatized, but I think for men, it's even more, right? Like there's even more stigma. And so I'm curious, did you always know that you had, because also anxiety is like presents itself in all these different ways until you figure out what's going on. You're like, oh, this is what it is. Was it difficult for you? And do you think it's more difficult for men to sort of recognize how it shows up for them?
I mean, I couldn't say. I don't know. I don't know how it is for you, and what anxiety is for women. But I think as a man, like I remember, like I really don't drink ever really anymore. But when I was like 17, I would drink so much, like too much for a 17-year-old. I was drinking like whiskey, like on my own in a hotel room. And I wrote about it, and I have a song called In My Blood, which is the beginning of my conversation with anxiety.
We wanted that for 5 Feet Apart.
You wanted that, yeah. And that was the beginning of the conversation for me. And that was literally like, the beginning there, I'm laying on the bathroom floor. I was laying on the bathroom floor. I was literally like crying on the bathroom floor. And my parents would fly out instantly. And I'm sure that if they hear this or when they hear this, that will be heartbreaking for them to hear. But the masculinity in me did not let me call my mom or dad,
So then you grow up, and when you feel anxiety or shame or all of the things that we feel, and by the way, I have clearly my nervous tick too thing. Jamie always calls me on like, will you just keep the microphone in the same place, please? I'm like, no, Jamie, I'm nervous, okay? And then he can't say anything. But then you reach a point where then maybe it becomes an issue, right? Like your whiskey was. But I think what men experience, and I think the like invisible force that is masculinity, is it's the thing that doesn't allow us to reach out and ask for help.
Oh, yeah.
It's the thing that made it impossible for me to tell my wife, who is the closest person in the world to me, and who had to take my buddies to Mexico. He was one of them, and still wasn't able to, because I felt like I couldn't share that at that point. Like there was something wrong with me.
It's crazy.
And it's just like, what would have happened
if you had that conversation?
If we would have had the conversation, what would have happened if it was normal, like as normal for women to maybe talk about feelings and